Picture this. A man is running away from God, not sneaking around a corner, not hiding in a room. He gets on a boat and sails in the exact opposite direction of where he's been told to go. And when a storm nearly kills everyone on that ship, he asks the sailors to throw him overboard. Then he gets swallowed by a giant fish and survives inside its stomach for 3 days. If you think you know this story because you remember the whale, stick around, because the wildest part of this story isn't the fish at all. It's what happens after Jonah gets out. This is the story of Jonah, and it's less about a sea monster and more about a man who couldn't outrun mercy, even when he desperately wanted to. Before we get into it, if stories like this are your kind of thing, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Alright, let's get into it. To understand Jonah, you have to understand two things: who he was and who he was being sent to. Jonah was a prophet. That was his job. When God had a message, Jonah delivered it. Not a glamorous gig, but a respected one. People listened when a prophet spoke. One day, God gives Jonah an assignment. Go to Nineveh. Tell them their wickedness has caught my attention. Warn them. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a normal prophet job. Go somewhere, deliver a warning, done. Except there's a problem, and the problem is Nineveh itself. Nineveh was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, and the Assyrians were not just rivals of Jonah's people, Israel. They were notorious, brutal conquerors, the kind of empire whose name alone made people's stomachs drop. Think of the most feared, most hated enemy your country could have. That's Nineveh to Jonah. So when God says, go warn them so they can change their ways and be spared, Jonah doesn't just feel nervous. He feels offended. Because here's the quiet part Jonah isn't saying out loud yet. He doesn't want them to be spared. He wants them to get what he thinks they deserve. So what does Jonah do with this divine assignment? He runs. Not just drags his feet. He goes to the port city of Joppa, finds a ship, and pays his fare to Tarshish, which was about as far in the opposite direction from Nineveh as the map allowed. If Nineveh is one way, Tarshish is the other way, across the sea, off the edge of everything Jonah knew. He is not just avoiding a task. He is trying to get as far away from this responsibility, and honestly as far away from God as a person could physically go. And maybe that's the first thing worth sitting with. Jonah isn't a distant, dusty biblical figure doing something totally foreign to us. Most of us have done our own version of this. Not gotten on a boat, sure, but avoided a hard conversation. Ignored the thing we knew we should do. Told ourselves that if we just get busy enough, distant enough, distracted enough, the responsibility will stop tapping us on the shoulder. Jonah's version just happens to involve an actual boat. So he boards the ship. He goes down into the lowest part of it. And he falls asleep. That detail matters. While a storm is about to change everything, Jonah is down in the hold, dead asleep, like a man trying to sleep through his own conscience. The sea doesn't stay calm for long. Not long after they set sail, a massive storm hits, and this isn't ordinary bad weather. The text describes it as violent enough that the sailors, hardened men who've weathered plenty of storms in their careers, are terrified. They're throwing cargo overboard just to keep the ship from breaking apart. Every one of them is praying to their own gods, begging for the storm to stop. And where's Jonah? Still asleep, below deck, undisturbed. The captain finds him and basically says, "How can you be sleeping right now? Get up, pray to your God. Maybe he'll notice us and we won't die." Meanwhile, up on deck, the sailors are trying to figure out why this is happening to them. In their world, storms this violent didn't just happen. Someone had angered a god, and they needed to find out who. So they cast lots, essentially drawing straws to identify who's responsible. The lot falls on Jonah. They surround him with questions. Who are you? Where are you from? What have you done? And Jonah finally tells the truth. I'm a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. The irony lands immediately. He's fleeing across the sea from the God who made the sea. There was never anywhere to go. The sailors are horrified. What have you done? Why would you run from a God like that? And Jonah, to his credit, doesn't lie or dodge. He tells them plainly, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea, and it will grow calm. I know it's my fault this storm has come on you." Now here's something worth noticing. These sailors, who don't even worship Jonah's God, try everything else first. They row harder, trying to get back to land instead of throwing a man to his likely death. But the sea only gets more violent, and finally, out of options, they pray to Jonah's God specifically, asking not to be held guilty for what they're about to do. Then they pick Jonah up and throw him into the raging water. And the moment he hits the sea, the storm stops. Completely, instantly calm. The sailors are stunned. The text says they were seized by great fear of the Lord. And right there on that ship, foreign sailors who'd never known this God end up offering sacrifices and making vows to him. Jonah's disobedience, strangely, becomes the very thing that introduces these men to God. But Jonah himself is now in the water, sinking, alone. And this is where the story takes its most famous turn. God sends a massive fish to swallow him, not to kill him, to save him. Try to actually sit in this moment instead of skimming past it. Jonah has just run from God, been thrown into a storming sea by his own admission, and is now inside the belly of a fish for 3 days and 3 nights. This is not a comfortable rescue. It's disorienting. It's terrifying. It's also, somehow, the safest place he's been in the whole story, because it's the one place he's not trying to run anywhere. There's nowhere left to run to. And in that darkness, Jonah prays. It's a remarkable prayer, honestly. Not a shallow get me out of here plea, but something raw and honest. He describes sinking, seaweed wrapping around his head, feeling like he'd hit the very roots of the mountains, like the earth itself had shut him in forever. He describes real despair, and then he says that even there, even at what felt like the bottom of everything, he cried out and God heard him. He ends the prayer with a kind of resolved surrender. What I have vowed, I will make good. Salvation comes from the Lord. It's the turning point of the whole story. Not the storm, not the fish. This moment in the dark where a man who'd been sprinting away from his purpose finally stops running and says, essentially, "Okay, I hear you, I'll go." And right after that prayer, we get one of the most understated lines in the whole book. God speaks to the fish and it vomits Jonah out onto dry land. Not the most dignified rescue in Scripture, but an effective one. Jonah is alive. He's on solid ground. And he's exactly where he needs to be to finally do what he was asked to do in the first place. Quick pause, if you're finding value in this is a great moment to hit like and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because the next part of the story is where things get really interesting. God gives Jonah the assignment a second time. Same instructions as before. Go to Nineveh and proclaim the message I give you. And this time Jonah goes. Nineveh, we're told, was an enormous city, so large it took 3 days just to walk through it. Jonah starts walking in, and on just the first day he delivers the message. It's short, blunt, almost comically brief for a warning this serious. 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. That's it. And then something happens that nobody, least of all Jonah, expected. The city listens. Not just a few people. Not just the religious ones. The text says the Ninevites believed God, and from the greatest to the least of them, they responded. They declared a fast. They put on sackcloth, a traditional sign of mourning and humility. And when word reaches the king himself, he doesn't dismiss it or get defensive. He steps down from his throne, removes his royal robes, puts on sackcloth, and sits in ashes. He then issues a decree to the entire city. Everyone, including the animals, was to fast, wear sackcloth, and cry out earnestly to God. And critically, the king adds this: let everyone give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent. The most feared, most brutal empire of the era, the last people anyone expected to change, turn as a whole city from the top down. And God sees their actions, sees that they turned from their evil ways, and relents. The disaster doesn't happen. You'd think this is the happy ending. A whole city saved, a message delivered, mission accomplished. But the story isn't over, because there's someone in this story who is furious about how it ends. and it's Jonah. This is the part of the story people tend to forget, and it's arguably the most important part. Jonah is angry, not a little annoyed, genuinely, bitterly angry that Nineveh was spared. And he says something remarkable to God, something that finally reveals exactly why he ran in the first place. He says, essentially, "This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I ran to Tarshish to begin with. I knew you were a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending disaster. And now here we are." Read that again. Jonah didn't run because he doubted God's mercy. He ran because he knew God's mercy, and he didn't want it extended to people he believed didn't deserve it. That's the real center of this story. Not a fish, not a storm, a man wrestling with the idea that grace might be bigger than his own sense of who's earned it. Jonah is so upset he tells God he'd rather die than live to see this outcome. He leaves the city, builds himself a small shelter, and sits outside to watch, maybe hoping the city will still be destroyed, maybe just sulking. Either way, he waits. God, in what almost feels like a gentle, ironic gesture, causes a leafy plant to grow up over Jonah, giving him shade from the brutal heat. Jonah is finally happy about something. He's genuinely delighted by this plant. Then, the next morning, God sends a worm to chew through the plant, and it withers. And when the sun rises, God sends a scorching wind, and the heat becomes unbearable. Jonah grows faint and again says he wishes he were dead. And here God asks him a question that cuts right to the heart of everything. Is it right for you to be angry about the plant? Jonah says yes, he's angry enough to die. And God's response is the actual, final point of the entire book. You cared about this plant, though you didn't do anything to make it grow. You didn't tend it, you didn't work for it, it just appeared and disappeared in a single day. And yet you're upset about losing it. So should I not care about Nineveh? That great city with more than 120,000 people who don't even know right from wrong. Not to mention all the animals. And that's where the book ends. No neat conclusion. No confirmation that Jonah changed his heart. Just that question, hanging in the air, aimed as much at us as it ever was at him. So what do we actually do with a story like this? On the surface, it's easy to reduce Jonah to the guy who got swallowed by a whale. But that's the least interesting part of the story. The real story is about a man who had to learn that mercy doesn't ask his permission. That grace, real grace, gets extended to people we don't think have earned it, whether we like it or not. Jonah cared more about a plant that gave him 5 minutes of comfort than about 120,000 human lives. And most of us, if we're honest, have our own version of that. Our own Nineveh. Some person, some group, some situation where a part of us secretly hopes justice lands hard, rather than mercy landing soft. The story never actually tells us whether Jonah changes his mind. And maybe that's intentional. Maybe it's less a story with an ending, and more a mirror, asking whoever's watching whether they've answered the question yet. Because in the end, Jonah wasn't swallowed by a fish because he was the villain of this story. He was swallowed by a fish because even when we run as hard and as far as we can, mercy has a way of finding us anyway. If this story meant something to you, let me know in the comments, give it a like, and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you in the next video.